I, 29F, regret divorcing my husband, 29M, and want to reconcile. How to approach. 8 years ago I met him during college. He was there on a scholarship because his family was not well off. Mine, on the other hand, is very well off. At first hand you would look at us and think we have nothing in common. Him, a D&D chubby guy with fantasy tattoos covering 75% of his torso, and me, the golden child of my parents, doing modeling as a side gig trough college. But somehow we clicked. I fell hard for him and we started dating. Moved in together after 3 years. After college he started his own business and I went to work for my dad. My parents never approved and were not afraid to voice their opinions, even though I was making it clear it's my choice. Then 3 years ago I got pregnant, and due to hormones and the stress of being pregnant, I guess you could say I lost my mind. I started listening to my parents about how he was not adequate, still playing with toys when he is a grown man. He still has a group of friends he plays D&D with. How he doesn't provide enough. He earns good money, just not good enough in their eyes. FFS, we could afford to buy a house together in our 20s. Who can do that today? And other things which I will not get into here. Anyway, I became rude and snappy. Treated him worse and worse, and it culminated in me asking for divorce 1 year after our son was born. During this whole time he was never fighting back. I believe he was even worried about me because pregnancy and having a toddler was stressful. Especially how I biologically had to bear most of the burden. He would organize days off for me when the baby was born so I could go out, or have his sister come over to watch over our son so we could go out. But I didn't see any of that. Now mind you, we had our arguments, but he was present and supportive of me and my plans. Our arguments were more about how he would stay up late playing video games and not sleep enough. Or people saying the wrong things, nothing that couldn't be worked out by talking. When I asked for divorce, he didn't fight it. He said, I will give you everything if you want, just let me spend time with our son. I agreed, and that was the first time I noticed I messed up. Not enough to call it off, but it was the first of many stomach knots to come. As you can imagine, my parents were happy. His family more sad than angry that I divorced him. Over the last years he would come and spend time with our son as often as he could, and I would never fight it. I enjoy watching the two of them together. Now, as soon as the divorce was finished, I started having regrets. They started out small, but they are unbearable now. I miss how he would look for any chance to bite my hips. I would pretend I hate it and complain. He would retort, it's my fault because I look adorable. How he would drool in his sleep all over my arm. How he would say something romantic and then immediately proclaim himself the most romantic man alive, and that I am so lucky to have him. It was infuriating how he would ruin our moments. This week my parents came over and apologized. My dad told me they both noticed how unhappy I was. And the only time my eyes look alive is either when I talk about my son or his visits. They said they should have been supportive and realized they had a hand breaking up my marriage. They just want me to be happy. And if he made me happy, they should have not treated him or our marriage as they did. I broke down, screamed how they ruined my life, how I miss him and want back my husband. They both hugged me and cried with me and said sorry in 1,000 different ways. After we calmed down, they said I should speak to him and see if there is any chance to try again. He is always friendly when he comes and visits, and whenever I need help he comes running. Makes me feel optimistic I still have a chance. Now, just to clarify, my parents are also to blame, but most of the blame falls on me. It was me who listened and me who filed for divorce. My question is, what to say, how to approach him. Tomorrow he is coming to take our son for a walk into the park. Do I call him and ask to meet when he is not visiting? I need advice, please help. I know I messed up and I'll regret it for the rest of my life, but I want another chance. He is single and has been since divorce, same as me. Edit 1. A lot of people are suggesting therapy. I am already therapy for a year. So thank you, and it is my mistake I didn't mention it in the post. TLDR. Divorce my husband due opinions of other people, and now I want to try again. Please help. It's super worrisome that your parents still have a huge influence on what you do. While you've been coming to the conclusion slowly, it wasn't until your parents came to you, realizing how unhappy you are, apologizing and suggesting you talk to your ex. From how you write it, it's like you finally got their permission and now running with it. That's not healthy for you, for your son or your ex. The best thing would be to sit on this and talk to your therapist on how to approach this. Maybe your therapist would suggest bringing him in? I would also suggest closely looking at how much your parents influence you in the present. It's alarming how them coming to you really has prompted you into immediate action. Honestly, seems like you are still letting your parents run your life for you. Until you fix that, I don't know if reconciliation will really work out. But all you can do is talk to him. I mean, is he single? Are you guys on good terms? Is he the type that would even take you back? A part of me wonders if that's even fair to him. When you didn't want him, you tossed him aside easy. You need to tread carefully and first work on your own issues. That's what got you here in the first place. You let your parents' elitist attitudes plague your perception of your supportive husband. You have a lot of work to do. If you were his friend, and you knew all of what you wrote above, would you tell him to reconcile with his ex-wife? Because I wouldn't. I would tell him she seems to need a lot of emotional growth and she needs to draw a hard boundary around how she lets her parents influence her. I would probably also not be comfortable with her still working for her dad. For a couple of reasons. First, obviously, the nepotism. Does she have the skills to get a job without her family connections? That would show some growth. Second, the boundaries. She needs to not be in daily contact with the parents. She has yet to set a boundary or even see that she needs them. You say you carry the responsibility of your situation. But until you make room for him in your life, what has changed that he would want to come back to? It doesn't sound like anything except your perspective. And that only because you are sad and lonely now. I'd never let my parents butt into my relationship right that kind of cringe. Just tell him the truth, but honestly he deserves better. Before you even think about reconciling, you need to do a lot of therapy. You seem incredibly immature, passive and selfish. You treated your husband terribly. Even now, you're blaming your parents for a decision that you, a grown woman with a child, made. As it stands, he deserves much better than you. If you want to put your family back together, start doing the work on yourself. Then maybe in a few years, ask if he'd be willing to explore a reconciliation with the new you. But if he were here asking, I'd tell him to tell you no way. Go see a therapist. Your dependency on your parents is not healthy. Honestly, step 1 would be cutting off your parents to some extent. If this was me and I was him, that would be step 1. Step 2 would be some form of counseling, help you grow up a bit. I mean this in the nicest way, but no person as old as you with a kid to boot should need their parents' approval to the extent that they not only ended a good relationship and marriage but then also need them after the fact to get them to see that they should never have left in the first place. You may see the current developments as some sort of progress, but from my perspective you are still the same person who needs mommy and daddy to tell them what to do, and that is not someone I would be willing to be in a relationship with again. So understand that what you have put him through and you declaring your love may be hard on him too. After all these years, I would write him a letter and explain everything and give him time to process it. If you want to try to reconcile, then you will probably need counseling at minimum, but you also need to figure out if he is willing to have a relationship with your parents, and if not, what will you do? Your family should also write him a letter and apologize. I mean, you are the villain in this story. It sounds like he's a great guy and you don't deserve him. The fact that you named your throwaway after the reason you divorced him speaks volumes on how little you've matured and grown. That man would do better to find a partner who isn't so self-absorbed and codependent. I think you should leave him alone. You and your parents did major damage to this poor guy. Let him find someone who loves him enough that they wouldn't listen to anyone else talk bad about him. The best thing you can do is co-parent your child. I wouldn't get back with you. He deserves someone better that will love him as is and not treat him badly. Let him go. I think the biggest thing here will be setting boundaries with your parents. Why did they meddle in your life? Why do you listen? If I were your ex, I wouldn't get back together with you just because you seem to be very much under their influence. And I doubt it was never just you and him. Always you and him and them. You divorced him? No cheating. Nothing but video games? Crush him. Only advice I have is for you to stay away. If he wants to be with you again, big if, he'll come to you. But I wouldn't hold my breath. You proved easily swayed and unable to think for yourself. It's also a red flag to feel so entitled to think you can fix it. Face it, you blew it. But you're the golden child, so you'll probably read this but pay it no heed. He deserves better. Let him find his own happiness with someone else. I really hope he rejects you. Leave him alone. My advice to you might be different from what everyone else is saying, so you probably won't pay it any mind, but I would suggest you leave him alone. You already put him through a lot during the marriage, and he has no way of knowing if you've truly changed or if you're still listening to your parents while just hating him more. 'Cause if I'm being honest, he deserves someone better than you. Some who'll treat him the same way he treats them, so he never feels alone or left out. It would be good if you talked with him and apologized for how you treated him. Just try to consider his feelings in the moment, just like how he did yours when you showed your hate for him. Don't try to guilt trip him or make an ultimatum for him to come back. Just tell him you're sorry, but don't beg him to come back. If he doesn't mention getting back with you, you don't mention it either. Even if a few months goes by and he still doesn't say anything about it, take it as a no and move on. To be honest, you wrote every last bit of this and still entirely failed to get it. You likely can't get him back at this point. If you do, it would be a hollow marriage and hollow life. You still just don't get it. There is a reason he can be the way he is, and you still don't get it one damn bit. It's such a shame. I would explain, but in all honesty, it would just come out sounding like an attack on you, which isn't the point. The day you get it, you and him may finally be able to be happy together. I sure hope someone else can explain the one thing you are missing. If not, I feel even worse for you than I do now. Good luck. If you had any sort of integrity, you would leave him alone. Obviously you don't, so you will try to weasel your way back into his life. He deserves better. You keep repeating in your comments that you are already in therapy. But you have a lot more work to do. Why do you think your parents' apology was the tipping point, even though you wanted to reconcile for years? 'Cause you are still mommy and daddy's special little girl and needed their permission to reconcile. Also, it's mostly my fault. No, it's 100% your fault. Your abnormal relationship with your parents doesn't absolve you from your responsibility as an adult to make decisions and deal with the consequences as well. You need way more therapy than you realize. You are not a little girl. You need to cut the umbilical cord. Grow up and take responsibility for actions. Until you do, you will only bring misery on this poor man. If you truly love your ex-husband, you would not attempt to reconcile. Why put him through another train wreck? Hasn't he had enough already?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.